It's a new era for the Elon Phoenix. Hello, my name is Grace Stetler, and today I am joined by our new Director of Athletics, Jennifer Strawley. Jen, thank you so much for sitting down with us today and just telling us a little bit about your new time here at Elon, your history, and what excites you about being a part of the Elon Phoenix community.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here with you today.
So I was, thinking about things to talk about and questions that I had if I was, a new student athlete and wanted to learn a little bit more about my athletic director. So tell me a little bit about that transition from the University of Miami, where you served there for 11 years. Now you're at Elon. Obviously, that's a pretty big transition, right? A different location, student population, even athletic culture. So tell me a little bit about that transition. How has that been coming to Elon?
I'd start first with just how welcoming and excited people have been, for me to get here and to be here and to be a part of this community. Both the campus community and the greater Elon Burlington community has, kind of eased some of that piece of the transition. But it's also a transition for me, having been the number 2 at Miami and now transitioning to be the athletic director. And, you think about that in your head when you're thinking about the next step in your career. But when you get to that place, you realize you're prepared for the moment, but there still are pieces you're learning a little bit along the way too. So I'm excited for that. In terms of transitioning from Miami to Elon, I think people focus on the differences. I really, at the end of the day, focus on what are more the similarities. And I think the student athlete experience, which is what drives me every day, is really about how do you prepare students for a life of impact beyond. And I came to work every day trying to do that at Miami, and I'm going to come to work every day trying to do that here at Elon. And yes, that does impact their academic success, and yes, it does impact how you want to have athletic success and how you want to set priorities to do all of that. But it really is about that experience and how you provide that for young people, and I'm a product of that. And so that's where my passion starts and really leads me each and every day.
Mm-hmm. So, you mentioned a key word, and I always pick up on keywords, in conversation, and I think a big one was that word community. How have you felt being welcomed into the Elon community? Did you feel that initial community when you came in?
I really did. It's, people talk, Elon's a special place, and sometimes you say that, and it's hard to define exactly what that means, but there's this real sense of community and this real sense of pride and this real sense of wanting people to feel like they're a part of that, and it's really been incredible. And I've been blown away by not only by the students, I've been blown away by the community, I've been blown away by the institutional leadership, and just how welcoming by our student athletes, by our coaches, just how welcoming everyone has been to want to help and to want to be a part of how we continue to move forward.
Yeah, I think, and that's a very key part of Elon, is that it's special. Yeah. It's a very niche place to be able to study, to be able to work, to be able to play. It's an awesome place to be able to go to school. Sure. But, speaking from your history and where you have worked, at Miami, you spearheaded a lot of amazing projects. You were able to really transform a lot of different departments. What was one key thing you did at Miami that you really feel like you took away and now you're going to try to take here to Elon with you?
So I'll cheat and give you 2 pieces. Sure. I think one of the things I really learned in my time at Miami was it's important to understand what are your priorities and what is the vision of where you're trying to get to, and then how do you set the priorities that are most going to impact that end goal. And so you can say, we have 10 things we need to do, but what are the 2 most important, and how do you begin to work towards those 2 most important, and then get to 3 and 4. And I think that's how you begin to transform and find success, whether that's competitive success. And I think we were able to do a lot of that around, you look at the 2 basketball programs at Miami and some of the success they had when I got there, it was really what are the priorities and how do you build towards that. Or goals as it relates to what you want to do in the community or different pieces. But I think the thing that I'm actually most proud of that we were able to do at Miami is when I got there, I identified kind of a need or an opportunity, maybe is a better word, around being able to raise money around women's athletics. And we created a celebration of women's athletics that really showcased Miami's female student athletes, and we're able to raise a lot of money around that and help engage the community around women and the impact that sport has on women and the ability for them to go impact the world beyond that. And so I think there are pieces of that to bring here to Elon. I don't know that I'd see it in the exact same way, but I think just recognizing that fundraising and supporting and all of that for women can be different and still equitable at the same time, and how you can build what's best to do that in a particular program. But I'm very proud of what we built in my time at Miami around that.
Yeah, and I think that's an awesome point. I mean, the female athletics here at Elon is something that, is so strong, especially even, the women's track team. I ran track and cross country in high school, so it has a bit of a special space in my heart, but they've been conference champions for the longest time, and I think that really building that celebration around them is just so important.
100%. And it's rare that you find a track program that wins cross country, indoor, and outdoor.
Exactly.
People don't realize that you usually aren't successful across all three in that same way, and so what our track program has built is really special.
Yeah. So in the first kind of part when we were talking, you kind of mentioned that you were a product of something. And I wanted to talk a little bit about that history because, where you come from is a really big part of what takes you to where you are now. So talking a little bit about your own story, I know you were at the University of Pennsylvania in Philadelphia, go Quakers, by the way, and you were on the softball team. And I believe, if I'm correct, you served as a captain for a few years. Tell me a little bit about what that leadership role did for you in your current career path.
There is no doubt that I am a product of being a student athlete and really of the impact that sport had in my life from when I was young. My parents instilled in me values that I could be anything I wanted to be, and I could dream and see and accomplish something that maybe I didn't see yet. I'm older than your generation, and I go back and there weren't a whole lot of female athletes that people saw as role models when I was growing up. And I still remember when Dawn Staley's billboard went up in Philadelphia, or when Mia Hamm, won. They started to become successful in the soccer world even before they won the World Cup. And it's seeing that is what creates that dream and that belief for young people. And being able to be a student athlete at Penn in a time when change was happening for female student athletes and opportunities were being evolved. I don't know that I realized it at the time. I see it now looking back. But there's no doubt that those leadership opportunities and those, quite honestly, failures along the way. I mean, in a sport like softball, you strike out, you have to figure out how you get back up to bat the next time. You lose a contest, you have to come back from what do you learn from that and what do you take from it. And then as a captain, how do you lead your teammates through that? How do you create that sense of community that helps make a team that's bigger than the individuals and something that everybody strives to be a part of? And so the lessons I learned in my time as a student athlete are undoubtedly a direct part of who I am, not only as a professional, but as a leader and as a person.
I also feel like being a student athlete, now as an athletic director, you can probably relate to the student athletes on another level. Can you speak to that a little bit, like kind of that connection you can build with them?
It becomes harder and harder the older you get,
Sure.
but I think you can at least understand and relate back to the experience.
Yep.
And you recognize that the balance that they have to find in time is somewhat challenging, and the sacrifices you have to make as a student athlete, that not that other students don't, other students make sacrifices too, but the sacrifices in time and effort and just energy that you put in, you are tired a lot of the time, and finding enough hours in the day to find sleep is hard sometimes, or recognizing that you got to get up for class after you lost a game the night before, and it's much easier to get out of bed after a win than it is after a loss. And so just balancing some of that and having lived through that myself, I'd like to think I at least have appreciation for a degree of what they're experiencing. Today's world is very different. We didn't have social media in the day when I grew up, and that fundamentally changes just an experience for a young person. And so I'm learning to try and understand that piece of it and the pieces that I didn't directly experience. But I would like to think that at least having been a student athlete myself gives me some better understanding for our student athletes.
And then kind of talking one more point about your time at Penn, I know that you had graduated with, I believe, a bachelor's in history, correct? But then you went back to Miami to get your master's in sports admin. What kind of ignited that flame to be able to say, no, I want to go back and I really want to get that? Because history to sports admin, it's a different jump. It's a big jump in two different fields. But what sparked that?
The first question might be, why were you a history major?
Sure.
And I think that really, I honestly thought I was going to go to law school and be a lawyer. And I love history. I'm a nerd kind of at my core, and just like learning about the past and understanding what drives and kind of different pieces was a passion. And so I enjoyed that piece of my educational background. My decision to go back and get a master's really stemmed from, I work in higher education, and I think there's an important piece of continuing to educate yourself and learn when you're working in a realm of higher education. And so I felt that it was important to take the time and go back and do that. It wasn't easy to find that time in a full schedule. It actually happened a period during COVID, which made it even more challenging at times. But I'm proud of the fact that I was able to do that, and I think continuing to educate yourself and learn is important. At that point in my career, I obviously knew I wanted to be in sports administration, so it made sense to be able to kind of evolve in that space for me. But I kind of transitioned out of the lawyer phase when I took an internship at the NCAA and really found that I could find my passion in collegiate athletics and really the development of young people.
You'd mentioned you kind of worked at the NCAA, had an internship. I also saw that you served on a lot of different boards on the NCAA. All of that kind of collective knowledge that you learned, how have you been able to take pieces of the different boards that you served on and apply that to your time at Miami, but also now your time here at Elon? What have you learned from being on those boards?
There's a piece of a national understanding and a national scope of higher education of intercollegiate athletics that I think is really important. And being able to work at the NCAA national office and being able to serve on various boards or various committees within the NCAA structure or the ACC structure has really just helped kind of me with the understanding of the greater picture. So whether you're at Miami or at Elon, you fit into a larger picture of the scope of college athletics and higher education. And I think serving on those and hearing different perspectives and understanding what different administrators are understanding or going through and how you evolve at the solution that might be best for the collective might not always be the best individual solution for a particular institution, but what's best for the collective. College athletics doesn't always do that well. I think we're at a crossroads in a lot of ways in intercollegiate athletics. But I think the camaraderie and the networking, the pieces that you form through that, I have a great network of people across intercollegiate athletics, and I think serving on those committees and spending time at the national office also helped facilitate that for me.
And I think that's a key word, is especially in the sports industry, no matter if you're a player, if you are a broadcaster, if you're an AD, it doesn't matter what you are, network is key. And really, honestly, in any industry, network is key. So speaking, I guess, now of your Elon chapter and your Elon network, what most excites you about being here at Elon? What is exciting you for the future of Elon athletics and kind of leading the charge on that?
It goes back to it. Elon is clearly a very special place. It's a place that knows its values, knows who it is as an institution, but then is not afraid to be bold and innovative. And you look at the Bold Elon strategic plan, and I can't help to get excited about the vision that we have for this institution. And so what excites me from an athletic standpoint is being able to kind of set that vision for athletics and what's that North Star of what athletics is and how we want athletics to fit in to that Bold Elon plan and the 4 themes, and how we can then set that path forward for athletics to build on a tremendous foundation, but help us to evolve and really soar to new heights as we move into the future.
And I think something that's cool, and I'm a tour guide on campus, so one thing I always mention is that we're small but we're mighty, and I think we're small but we're mighty in a lot of what we do. So you're talking about that kind of that bold Elon, the strategic plan. How does athletics kind of feed into that? How does athletics kind of tie into that strategic plan for however many years out that is?
So my direct answer to your question is going to come a year or two from now when we've built the vision and plan around answering that. But I think athletics can be a vehicle that can both help enhance and build an institution, and an institution can both help and advance athletics. And I think it's the synergies between that create real opportunities for Elon. And so how do we use those 4 themes and build that within athletics that creates a connection for students that's lifelong, that they build back, that might start through athletics, but really is about identifying with Elon and with the brand of Elon and how they fulfill that into their lives beyond. And then how do you create excitement about what we're doing in athletics in order to really be a part of that and enhance and build the brand of Elon as an institution? Athletics is a part of what we do across the board as an institution. And so building that into what do we as a community want athletics to be within our greater institutional community. And
I think that's cool because, being able to make athletics something that's more than just going to root someone on at a football game or going to watch a match, I think that is really ties into that Elon community and that Elon sense. And talking about kind of what I guess the future of this year looks like, what developments do you see yourself making here at Elon, at least for just this year? I know you're just getting here, you're just getting your feet wet, you're just getting to learn even where everything is on campus, but at the same time, what development do you really see kind of in the works for this upcoming athletic season?
So in addition to kind of setting the vision and the plan, which we'll spend quite a bit of time doing as a department, and then also seeking input. I think if you're going to build something like that, you need a broad input and stakeholders that have voices into that process. But I think the other piece for me is just a focus on health and well-being. And we talked about the healthy you and all those pieces as well. But it's in athletics, how do we ensure that we have, whether it's the mental, physical, nutritional side of pieces in place for student athletes to be able to not only be competitively successful, but to be successful in life. And so I think there are some opportunities around enhancement there that will be some of my top priorities as we begin to look at, again, it's all about creating that student athlete experience that is going to allow them to be successful.
Yeah, and I think that that's like a key part. You were talking about the Healthy You plan, but also, like that mental health and mental well-being. That's a big conversation in sports today. And did you see a lot of that, like talked about at Miami? And like, do you think a lot of what you kind of learned at Miami about that whole mental health plan, do you see that kind of like carrying a lot of those plans kind of carrying over and that conversation still carrying over today at Elon?
In my time at Miami, we did talk a lot about how do you support the, again, mental, physical health of student athletes. And the healthy lifestyle component is critically important. And there are different pressures and pieces that exist today that did when I was a student athlete. So we at Miami spent a lot of time having conversations about that and adding support and putting pieces in place to best support student athletes. So I do think there are pieces from that I can help bring to Elon. It might look different because institutional communities are different and how you embrace things are different. But I think the ultimate piece is what's the best plan at Elon to support our student athletes from a mental health standpoint so they can be successful in all facets of their collegiate life.
I mean, this has been an awesome conversation, honestly, just being able to learn a little bit more, not only just about you, but just kind of digging a little bit more into like what the future of Elon Athletics looks like. But before kind of we wrap up, I always ask one question and it kind of ties up like what your thoughts on Elon are. And so if you were to describe Elon in one word, in a few words, kind of what the future of Elon Athletics would look like to you or what you're feeling about the future of Elon Athletics, how would you describe that?
So again, I'm going to cheat. I can't use one word, but for me, I think the future of Elon Athletics really is going to focus on three words. And first is teamwork. And really, I think if you think about anything you do, if the collective is always better than the individual. So how do you support each other? How do you create a culture that supports all that we do collectively, both in athletics and as an institution? I think you create the healthiest brand of yourself in order to advance forward. Two, as I touched on a little bit, but innovation. I want us to be innovative. I want us to think outside the box. I want us to be bold in how we look at what we're doing within Elon Athletics. And the third is I want to have fun. I mean, I think ultimately, we work in college athletics. It is about having fun. It is about creating an environment where staff and student athletes enjoy what they do on a regular basis, and that all ties back into everything. So I think if we can have great teamwork and be innovative and have a little fun along the way, it'll be a great culture and a great environment, not only within athletics, but that can transcend what we do across the institution.
I agree. I know I'm so excited for the future of Elon Athletics. I know I'm only a sophomore, but I can see a lot of development even just after this conversation and a lot of excitement just in your voice and in how you really want to propel like Elon Athletics into the future. And I think that that's awesome. And I know as me, as well as all my other students in the student body, student athletes, non-student athletes, we're just excited to see what we have in store in the Elon season. So thank you so much for sitting down with us today and talking a little bit about what the Elon future looks like. I know we're all very excited for the upcoming athletic season and for the seasons to come. So thank you, Jen.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.